They hide for hours in their thick camouflage. They withstand the merciless bites of the most bloodthirsty predators. They challenge the order of the food chain, and they fight for their lives in a war without respite. They are immune to the most lethal poisons. They run for their lives with ferocious carnivores on their backs, and they live to tell the tale, an example of resilience, and at the same time, savagery. These are the wild survivors of the animal kingdom and their fight for survival. Here, seemingly helpless prey achieve the impossible, escaping the clutches of death. Large lion prides are left with empty stomachs. Ferocious jaguars watch their prey slink away through the thick undergrowth. And sharks, incredulous, find themselves overwhelmed even in the depths of the water. When the desire to survive takes over, no amount of claws or bites can impose the dictatorship of the food chain. In the anarchy of the wild, insects devour birds, herbivores subdue carnivores, and small fish plunge mighty sharks into eternal sleep. They are, quite simply, wild species, rebelling against the yoke imposed by Mother Nature at the end of a millennia-old status quo. Faced with this rebellion, predators become prey, and a power-to-power struggle for survival is upon us. Carnivores with their infallible murderous weapons, and the base of the food chain relying on their ingenuity, and millions of years of evolution preparing for this moment. Deep in the African savanna, one of the wildest ecosystems on the planet, where predators are at their most hostile and ferocious, a robust equine, defying all odds of survival, carves out a place for itself in the midst of this animal empire, where anything goes when life is at stake. In a habitat dominated by lions, leopards, cheetahs, hyenas, and wild dogs, all eager to devour anything in their path, zebras, irreverent striped mammals, manage to earn their right to live in this demanding ecosystem. On this merciless plain, predators are literally at the top of the trees. Prides of lions hide in the grasslands. Voracious crocodiles wait for their moment to attack from the swamps, while the leopard waits in the shelter of the bushes. Each and every one of these predators will be more than happy to drag what they believe to be a defenseless zebra into their jaws. But time has shown that these ungulates will not be easy prey, and they will test the rulers of the food chain. Grazing in the open air, enjoying the green fields brought by the rains, zebras seem like the dream of every hungry lion pride. With one weighing up to 400 kilograms, just one good hunt can provide the pride with food for several days. However, it won't be as easy as it seems for them to lay their sharp teeth on the bulk of these equines. Although their black and white fur, far from camouflaging them, seems to make them visible to all carnivores, this striped pattern is one of the zebra's main weapons for surviving in this harsh ecosystem, where Mother Nature has left them at the mercy of predators. When a pride of lions has launched its attack and the herds flee, the fur of these striped mammals creates a dazzling effect on predators, making it difficult for them to determine the distance to their prey, as well as where one individual ends and another begins. Maintaining a cohesive herd, zebras are a real pain for predators, as they can see their prey so close yet be so far away. Living in large herds of up to hundreds, each member performs surveillance duties to maintain the herd's integrity. Thanks to the location of their eyes on their heads, zebras have a field of vision of nearly 360 degrees, making it extremely difficult for a predator to take them by surprise. Even if they can't see their stalkers before they attack, they're likely to hear them. Their mobile ears can detect even the stealthy footsteps of a leopard in the vegetation, making hunting one of these large mammals increasingly difficult for the carnivores. The danger-sensing abilities of these ungulates are so prodigious that even other herbivores such as wildebeest and impala benefit from living near these striped herds. Aware of their position in the food chain, Zebras often don't stay to investigate the situation as soon as they see any suspicious movement in the vegetation, preferring to retreat quickly. Hearing an alarm in the form of a snort or whinny, not a single member of the herd will remain motionless, as they know exactly what it means. Their horse-like appearance is precisely an indication of their great speed, as these equines can reach speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour in their rapid escapes across the savanna. Similarly, far from tiring from these rapid trots, zebras can run for long distances, even under the scorching African sun. Given that a wild cheetah can be twice as fast as a zebra, you might delude yourself into thinking it won't have any trouble hunting down such a large prey. However, the idea of chasing one of these horses at full speed and then pouncing on its neck isn't particularly safe. Despite its peaceful and calm appearance, if a zebra is cornered by a predator, it won't hesitate to use its large, powerful paws as weapons. And when you're a less robust 70-kilogram cheetah, just one of these blows can knock you out instantly. These violent paw shakes, called kicks, are capable of fracturing a lion's jaw, forcing it to desist from its cruel intentions, and probably sending it to a slow death by starvation. After a long day of humbling the savanna predators, with the sun setting on the horizon, some carnivores think this is the perfect opportunity to take revenge for their misfortunes and snatch a juicy zebra. Knowing this, these born survivors know well that in the middle of this harsh plain, lying down for a deep sleep would mean never waking up again. For this reason, zebras choose to sleep standing up, so that if a night attack occurs, they won't waste a second in making a swift escape, leaving predators with an empty stomach once again. This is wildlife in the hostile yet welcoming savanna. No matter how ferocious a predator, when survival is at stake, everything is decided in split seconds in a relentless battle. Here, even apex predators can see all the fear and dread they're accustomed to instilling come back to haunt them. Not far from the zebra's home, colossal bulls weighing up to a ton are about to give the African savanna royalty a harsh reality check in one of the greatest displays of savagery ever seen. Grazing peacefully in the middle of the green plain, African buffalo are perhaps the dream of every lion pride. With such enormous size, just one of these ungulates can provide food for several days, even enough to feed dozens of felines until they are stuffed. However, this dream and longing for abundant food can turn into a nightmare in just a few seconds. With the kings of the savanna being attacked by bulls weighing almost 1,000 kilos. Living in herds of up to thousands, African buffaloes are the perfect example that there is strength in numbers. By living in endless herds, these giants can remain constantly alert to any threat that, ignoring all sense of reality, is poised to hunt down a formidable ungulate. Despite not having exceptional eyesight, these horned beasts possess a highly advanced sense of smell, as well as hearing capable of detecting even the stealthy footsteps of a lion in the grass. Upon detecting any kind of threat, and with no time to waste, the sentries who have spotted the predator will emit a deep growl as a warning signal. Unlike most savanna herbivores, buffalo do not usually flee in terror, but rather, defying their role in the ecosystem as prey, they will confront hunters, quickly positioning themselves in a defensive ring, with the females and young in the center and the larger, stronger males on the outside. One of the fiercest battles in all of wildlife is seconds away, and the only certainty is that the ungulates will not be easy prey. With the lions taking the initiative, the bulls face off in an impregnable formation where no buffalo will yield to the feline's claws and bites. Each specimen boasts a robust body, as well as large hooves and a pair of sharp horns up to a meter long. After resisting the lion's initial attacks, these black beasts decide to unleash their wild side and launch a vicious counterattack directly at the carnivores. With each buffalo running up to 60 kilometers per hour and using their spindly horns as spears, the chaos can easily turn the lions into victims of this savage encounter. A mere graze of one of their sharp horns can send the felines to their final resting place, or cause serious injuries that can leave them in agony for days. Since this battle on the savannah has been going on for millennia, the lions, expert hunters, know that the idea of interfering with a large pride is not very prudent, so they prefer to attack the sick animals, or why not, the young and defenseless cubs. With no company other than their mother a few feet away, tiny African buffalo calves can be quite a feast for a hungry herd. And in theory, without having a whole herd of angry bulls on their tail. Without much caution, given the small calf, the lions attack their weak target, almost tasting their prey when they see it so unprotected. What the savannah executioners didn't count on is that, with just a sharp bleat, dozens of brave bulls would run at full speed to rescue the, until now, unprotected calf. Here, the lions are about to experience fear firsthand. Since raising a small calf can take up to 11 months of gestation and a year of lactation, the herd will do the unthinkable to prevent it from perishing at the hands of predators. Although life in large herds and the ferocity of each individual animal make African buffaloes quintessential survivors, they also form a crucial link in the food chain of the harsh African savanna. Often, after countless attacks by immense prides of lions, one member of the herd eventually gives in, often but not before causing several casualties for the felines. What is certain is that these deaths do not usually go unpunished. After losing a fellow buffalo at the hands of these bloodthirsty carnivores, the buffaloes, well aware that the lions are enjoying the feast they have hunted, often go straight to where the young cubs are and apply the law of an eye for an eye to the fullest extent. When the felines return from their hunt, they find their dead cubs, where the large hoof prints at the crime scene are a clear indication of who the killer was. This is, without a doubt, one of the most brutal scenes in all of wildlife, and at the same time, one of the most aggressive survival measures on the part of African buffalo, which have wiped out what would be an entire generation of their predators. While African buffalo rely on their physical strength and herd life to escape and even subdue fearsome carnivores, the biodiversity of this ecosystem means that brute force isn't the only way to defend themselves. While these heavy bulls stand firm against every bite and swipe of voracious felines, gazelles see their speed as the key to avoiding perish against lions, leopards, hyenas, and even the equally speedy cheetahs. Weighing around 60 kilograms, these ungulates are seen by many carnivorous species as the perfect prey to satisfy their appetite. However, despite their harmless appearance and seemingly calm temperament, gazelles are well equipped to handle the burden of being almost at the bottom of the food chain. Living in large herds of up to hundreds, gazelles often roam the savanna in search of food, following the rainfall brought by the rainy season. These endless miles of green grass are a godsend for these lanky herbivores, who waste no time devouring every last grass in their path. However, as ancient survivors of a savanna plunged into chaos, where predators are literally everywhere, the gazelles know well that they cannot simply disconnect from their reality, not even when they enjoy the abundance of grass and water. For this reason, part of the advantage of living in large herds is that, while some eat, others take care of the surveillance duties, maintaining a secure perimeter, and, in theory, free of predators. When everything is going well, gazelles feed peacefully, devouring every clump of grass they find. However, they are not the only hungry species on the plain. And at any moment, the fastest land animal on the planet appears among the grasslands. For the ferocious cheetah, a sturdy gazelle is like manna from heaven. For after days without food, it can almost savor the exquisite taste of the ungulate's tender flesh. But despite facing a feline that outnumbers them in size, speed, and ferocity, these resourceful survivors will prove their worth to escape the clutches of death. Before the cheetah even approaches the herd, the pack is likely already aware of the feline's presence. With their uncanny sense of sight, they are able to detect potential threats up to 300 meters away. Furthermore, their extremely wide field of vision of nearly 360 degrees allows them to monitor every inch of their surroundings, avoiding surprise from behind. However, since in some areas of the savanna, the dense bushes serve as the perfect hiding place for the ferocious cheetah, the cat occasionally gets close enough to pounce on what, at first glance, appear to be defenseless prey. Here, in mere fractions of a second, at the sound of snorts and hisses of warning, the entire pack begins a fleeting escape into the endless savanna. With dozens of ungulates running around, predators often have a hard time choosing prey, and countless times they end up with empty stomachs. Even if the fastest cheetah manages to focus its attention on a gazelle, it won't let the pall of death fall without a fight. In a race for its life, this lanky sprinter can run at speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour, challenging even the fastest land animal on the planet. Of course, escaping a predator as formidable as a cheetah requires more than just running fast, and gazelles know this well. Therefore, during these fast-paced chases, they often run in zigzags, making sharp turns to evade the carnivore. Likewise, in a behavior known as stotting, gazelles, demonstrating their strength and great agility, perform impressive high jumps with their legs stretched out. These are clear warning signals to their predators, who try to dissuade them from getting in their way. Although the fast-paced cheetah has the physical advantage in short chases, this feline is only capable of pursuing its prey for a few seconds, while ungulates can maintain their fleeting pace for up to several minutes. Although gazelles deserve a deep rest after surviving the relentless attacks of numerous predators, these herbivores know that falling asleep in the midst of such a wild ecosystem can mean waking up in the jaws of a voracious lion. For this reason, preferring 1,000 times to survive rather than sink into eternal sleep, gazelles choose to rest for only about an hour a day, and in very short periods of no more than 5 minutes at a time. By staying awake, they can maintain a perpetual state of alertness, which makes it even more difficult for their predators to inflict a cruel and premature death on them. Given their thousands of years of experience surviving the savanna's harsh food chain, these ungulates know well that there are places they shouldn't frequent if they don't want to become someone's meal. Among these, wetlands plagued by Nile crocodiles are basically a sure death. Fortunately, another of these herbivores' impressive adaptations is their ability to last several days without even tasting the vital liquid. Thanks to obtaining all their hydration from food, some specimens even go their entire lives without knowing what a sip of water is. This behavior clearly makes them among the apex survivors of the wild. If surviving the hectic wildlife of the African savanna is a challenge for the lanky gazelles, for the much smaller meerkats, this is one of the greatest feats in the entire animal kingdom. Living in this corner of the world plagued by thousands of predators, the tiny meerkats prove that, when it comes to survival, size is just a number. Approximately 1,500 times smaller than the great African buffalo, these agile mongooses naturally don't see their physical strength as a way to survive the harsh conditions of this hostile plain. Completely forgetting that they only weigh about 700 grams, these compact mongooses demonstrate day after day that they have earned their place in this challenging ecosystem. One of those potential threats they often encounter is a dangerous Cape cobra, intent on satisfying its appetite with a small meerkat. While larger mammals, upon seeing a deadly cobra approaching, will quickly flee the scene, the meerkat pack won't even flinch when it comes to confronting the ferocious carnivore. Of course, the small mammals have a secret that allows them to appear confident, even in the midst of a deadly fight against the cobra. These seasoned survivors are immune to venoms as lethal as those of this feared reptile, and even those of some scorpions. Accustomed to killing small mammals with their venomous bite, the cobra is bewildered to see that the meerkats don't fear its usually terrifying jaw. Living in large families of up to dozens, when faced with a formidable intruder like a venomous snake, all the marmots will join forces. With the snake practically unarmed due to the uselessness of its venom, and such a massive numerical advantage, the small meerkats, with no time to waste, launch their ferocious attack. Using their sharp teeth, each one lunges directly at the reptile's body, which immediately feels the fear shift. With several meerkats attacking what until just a few minutes ago was a feared predator, it's only a matter of time before the meerkats give it a rather undignified death. Of course, to celebrate their victory over this invader, there's nothing better than fresh snake meat. With such a large family, each meerkat gets a small share of the feast. But the meerkat's natural survival skills go far beyond their immunity to these lethal substances. Like the colossal buffalo, for these much smaller mammals, the secret to surviving the harsh plains lies in family life. Living in a highly organized society, each member of the clan fulfills a specific role in daily life. When the pack goes out to forage, knowing that there are countless carnivores eager to devour a meerkat, the group delegates the task of standing sentry to a strong male. He will be responsible for alerting the pack to any potential danger that could put members of the clan at risk. As sophisticated wild survivors, meerkats have a wide repertoire of calls in the form of barks, squeaks, and screams. Each alert call is used for a different type of attack, whether it is an aerial threat represented by a ferocious falcon in the skies, a hungry jackal appearing on the horizon, or another venomous snake eager to become part of the pack's diet. After giving the warning, each of the meerkats who are rooting around in the ground will, without a second thought, run straight back to the burrow. In this elaborate shelter, built with their well-trained claws, the pack can rest easy knowing they're not in danger. However, not all the meerkats will always make it back to the burrow, and those left behind will have to fight for their lives. When one of the group members is intercepted by a predator, in a clear demonstration of the importance of family to this species, each of the mammals, without the slightest hesitation, rushes to the rescue of the solitary meerkat. With the arrival of the rest of the pack, the predator suddenly finds itself surrounded. Here, even facing carnivores with obvious physical superiority, the meerkats, in one of the greatest displays of bravery in the wild, stand up to their most formidable enemies. Typically, the strategy consists of circling the predator and displaying their ferocity through vocalizations and body postures. Here, each meerkat raises its fur and stands on its hind legs to appear larger. While this strategy doesn't appear very threatening when a meerkat deploys this strategy, with adrenaline pumping through its body and feeling under siege, predators often prefer to keep the ecosystem at peace and flee at top speed. With this new victory, the pack remains unscathed, despite the numerous predators that routinely intrude on their corner of the wild Kalahari. But the intelligent meerkats aren't always willing to do the hard work of guarding their burrows themselves. Sometimes they prefer to form alliances with other species and entrust them with the security of their refuge. With species like red-backed boobies, the diplomatic meerkats establish mutualistic relationships in which these intelligent mammals dig up succulent insects, while the birds issue a warning signal as soon as a bird approaches the busy mongooses. In this win-win relationship, each species ultimately benefits from the other. The colorful birds get rich insects with minimal effort, and the small mongooses are alerted early to the incursion of threats like eagles or hawks. While the resourceful meerkats take refuge in their cozy burrows, when the African porcupine encounters a vicious predator, it unhesitatingly invites the predator to attack, if it dares. Anyone who wants a piece of this rodent's tender flesh will first have to deal with sharp spines up to 10 centimeters long, ready to dig into the body of its attackers. With an impenetrable natural armor of more than 30,000 spines, there is virtually no weak spot to attack this small mammal without being seriously injured. Although, given their hardness, these sharp weapons might appear to be horns emerging from the animal's body. They are actually modified hairs wrapped in a thick layer of keratin, which peel off with surprising and frightening ease. This insurmountable armor is even capable of protecting the tiny porcupine from formidable foes such as lions, leopards, eagles, and even large snakes. No predator, no matter how feared, is immune to receiving one of these long quills directly to its jaw, which deters any cruel intent on devouring the rodent. Knowing that its best defense lies in its sharp armor, as soon as the porcupine detects something amiss, it bristles its fur, which immediately raises its sharp quills. While some wild survivors choose to assume larger postures by spreading their wings, or like meerkats, standing on two legs, this clever rodent prefers to solve its problems by curling into a ball, hiding its quillless head and belly, and showing only its rough back, covered with these sharp blades. With this defensive tactic, no predator, no matter how skilled, can avoid sustaining a few wounds along the way if they want to capture the porcupine as their prey. Occasionally, this ferocious survivor, aware of its immunity to these attacks, assumes a more aggressive behavior, rearing up on its hind legs and displaying its stinging hairs in a threatening manner. To alert predators of their mistake, this far from defenseless prey often emits growls, hisses, and even chatters its teeth. Other warnings it often displays include tapping its tail on the ground and rattling its quills by moving them from side to side. If the intruder doesn't persist in harassing the small mammal, the porcupine, with no other option, resorts to violence. It runs backward and tries to charge at the predator, attempting to ram its sharp quills directly into the carnivore's face and body. Lions, hyenas, leopards, and any predator experience fear firsthand when they see a ball of quills hurtling toward them. Although the size of these sharp hairs is more than frightening, the real danger of the quills lies not only in the momentary pain they cause. Many of the wounds caused by these punctures become infected, which over time can become a serious problem. Furthermore, some porcupines have their fur impregnated with irritants, which can exacerbate the pain caused by each stab. In addition to being a danger on the ground to any carnivore that dares to devour it, this intrepid rodent often takes refuge high in trees, as it is an excellent climber. From high branches, this rugged mammal often clings tightly to trees with its claws, leaving only its repellent armor exposed. Another adaptation this master of survival has used to make a name for himself in wild ecosystems like the African savanna is his predominantly nocturnal habits. When predators like ferocious eagles rest from their hectic daytime routine, the porcupine goes out in search of food. Since this armored rodent can lose a large number of quills in its encounters with powerful predators, its ability to regenerate them is vitally important. Each quill can take a few weeks or even months to grow. While its survival skills are simply impressive, they are not completely impregnable. Some predators have specialized in hunting the hostile porcupine. The hunting technique generally consists of attacking its head directly, or turning the rodent over and delivering a bite right to its barbed belly to gut it. However, although it sounds so simple, most of the time it is the ferocious predators that end up with significant injuries, and with little desire to cross paths with a dangerous porcupine again. While this solitary, sharp-toothed rodent demonstrates its courage by surviving towering beasts in fierce hand-to-hand combat, the striking flamingos, with their extravagant plumage, have other methods to avoid being devoured by the leaders at the top of the food chain. Although their appearance as spindly birds, just over a meter tall, and their extravagant pink plumage don't make them look like masters of survival, flamingos have a few secrets for escaping the sights of voracious predators. While pythons, jackals, foxes, and eagles would be more than pleased to devour one of these beaked roses, flamingos enjoy living in almost complete peace, despite the fact that one of the world's fiercest battles for survival is taking place in their surroundings. Since they typically inhabit lagoons with extremely high levels of salinity or alkalinity, few predators dare even approach these life-defying ecosystems. While predators would suffer severe chemical burns and suffocation from corrosion just by approaching these hostile pools, for flamingos, these tributaries are a private oasis. Thanks to their waterproof feet, these birds can spend long periods standing on the sea floor, unfazed by the corrosion. Flamingos also have specialized nasal glands and an excretory system that allows them to eliminate large amounts of salt from their bodies with surprising ease. Their crustacean and algae-rich diet, in addition to giving them their distinctive pink coloration, provides them with high levels of antioxidants, which help them survive these harsh living conditions. Being one of the few species that can even come close to these lagoons, flamingos enjoy the delicacies these waters hold in the form of delicious seafood snacks. To survive these demanding biomes, if freshwater sources are nearby, flamingos will not hesitate to take refreshing baths to wash away excess toxins from their bodies. While these harsh living conditions mean few predators dare to risk hunting a flamingo, nothing in the wild can be taken for granted, as you never know when a hungry carnivore might want to defy the odds and venture into these toxic waters. However, if by some miracle they manage to break into this reserved habitat, a ferocious leopard or a hungry fox will not be welcomed with open arms, nor will they find themselves easy prey. Flamingos can live in large flocks of thousands, even millions. This vast numerical superiority can overwhelm predators who, seeing birds everywhere, know they've probably made a grave mistake. With hundreds of thousands of birds guarding the perimeter of the lagoon, it's a nearly impossible mission to take the colony by surprise. If just one of the birds detects a potential threat, with a single cry as an alarm, all the flamingos will be aware of the intruder's presence. Aside from their captivating and eye-catching appearance, when the colony is threatened, the flamingos will have no problem sending predators packing. Using their curved, razor-sharp beaks as weapons, these pink birds demonstrate their ferocity by pecking at their unwanted visitors. While an attack by a single bird may not be very frightening to a formidable predator like a leopard, when it comes to up to thousands of flamingos defending their territory, even big cats can decide to turn tail and abort the hunt. Even if the colony doesn't decide to attack the predator, escaping any intruder is as easy for the flamingos as spreading their wings and taking refuge in the safety of the sky. This way, the carnivores are left with nothing but the memory of what was supposed to be their food. Since it's a feat for terrestrial predators to snatch up one of these delicious pink prey, many birds of prey, with their aerial superiority, believe they can incorporate a nutritious flamingo into their diet. However, the risks are considerable, even for masters of the skies like eagles and falcons. When the smallest mistake can cause the bird of prey to fall directly into the waters, they often end up drenched. With their wet wings and the high mineral levels in these lagoons, the voracious predator cannot take flight again, so they fall prey to their greed, joining the victims of these toxic tributaries. Flamingos have adapted to these harsh biomes to such an extent that they even raise their young chicks in the water. Their nests are typically located amid tiny islands surrounded by several meters of saline water. A few thousand kilometers from the inhospitable lagoon where flamingos live, but still within the African continent, deep in the tropical rainforest of Madagascar, a hungry falcon watches from high above the dense vegetation in search of some undefended prey. Despite this hunter of the air's enviable vision, he simply can't spot any food sources, so he continues his hunt to new destinations. What the falcon doesn't realize is that it has fallen victim to the ingenious chameleon's unparalleled camouflage skills. By dyeing every inch of its body in vivid colors, the skillful chameleon perfectly mimics the shapes of leaves, flowers, bark, lichens, and any other vegetation found in its environment. With the help of this highly advanced camouflage, the intelligent reptile manages to escape becoming part of the diet of eagles, snakes, lemurs, frogs, and even the equally camouflaged praying mantis. When the chameleon blends into its ecosystem, it simply disappears, leaving no trace of its presence. Although its ability to change color seems purely a way to blend in with its surroundings, the truth is that these parades of colors on its skin also reflect the reptile's mood, as well as play a key role in regulating its body temperature. As with other wild survivors, one of the main tools they use to avoid being bitten by a predator is their keen vision. Thanks to their independently movable eyes, this reptile can observe in different directions simultaneously. With a field of vision of about 360 degrees, this cautious survivor doesn't miss even the smallest detail. Despite not having external ears, the chameleon can perceive even the quietest footsteps of any predator through vibrations, and can take appropriate measures to protect it from becoming part of its diet. Although far from imitating African buffalo chasing their predators, this small reptile's peaceful defense strategy often pays off. Freezing in time, hidden among leaves and branches, the chameleon can remain motionless for hours to avoid revealing its position, to avoid attracting the attention of any potential threat. Practically every subtle movement is coldly calculated and carried out with the utmost patience. Of course, no camouflage, no matter how elaborate, remains untouched by the hunting skills of predators, who upon detecting even a trace of a chameleon's presence, will not hesitate to turn to capture it. Upon encountering one of its wild tormentors, this cunning reptile, without even considering the option of being devoured, pulls out all its survival skills. Inflating its body to appear larger is one of the first strategies sought to deter predators from putting an end to the chameleon's calm and peaceful life. Likewise, opening its mouth to reveal its colorful interior sometimes works to scare off its wild adversaries. When found on high branches, some of these reptiles surprise visitors by taking a rather peculiar exit. Sensing grave danger, the small chameleon will not hesitate to jump in free fall from very high altitudes directly to what can be an efficient emergency exit on the ground, curling its body to minimize the impact of the fall. Upon collision, the reptile will immediately flee into the vegetation, seeking a new refuge to hide. Despite appearing slow and patient when they opt for a stealth strategy, when they decide on a quick escape, chameleons abandon all that patience and launch into lightning-fast runs of up to 34 kilometers per hour across the rugged jungle floor. Their great agility, combined with their already camouflaged skin, means the reptile disappears in an instant, leaving carnivores with an empty stomach. Although it can be cautious and wary, cowardice is not a quality that suits the resilient chameleon at all. When all its survival strategies fail, the reptile relies on its powerful bite. While against larger predators it may not make a significant difference in close combat, against species like spiders or frogs it can make a difference, inflicting painful bites that force them to give up on their prey. What the stealthy chameleon doesn't expect to encounter is another wild survivor who can even match its camouflage skills. In these same Malagasy tropical forests, a tiny insect is not only capable of surviving the most vicious predators, but sometimes even becomes one of them, taking out even the cunning chameleon. Measuring no more than 9 centimeters in size, the praying mantis proves that you don't need to be a colossal beast to survive the planet's most challenging ecosystems. Living in the middle of a dense tropical rainforest, the list of predators hunting this tiny insect is not particularly short, so it must use all its wits to avoid being devoured. Motionless, calm, and giving no hint of its presence, the praying mantis camouflages itself among the vibrant jungle vegetation, confusing its predators. While birds, lizards, bats, and spiders search for something to eat, this insect hides in plain sight, in one of the greatest displays of animal ingenuity. This expert camouflage artist is capable of changing color to adapt to her environment, shedding her skin and renewing her exoskeleton. When she lives in dry vegetation, she opts for shades of brown, while when she finds herself immersed in dense undergrowth, her survival strategy turns her color a striking green. Even young praying mantis nymphs, just days old, know well that to survive in this wild jungle, they must fend for themselves, so they often try to hide by pretending to be ants. Although it may appear slow and rigid when stalked by a predator, The truth is that this insect is surprisingly agile, capable of walking at great speed, jumping, and even flying. These prolonged periods of lying motionless are part of its complex freezing behavior, in which it can remain almost inert for hours to avoid giving away its position. While its advanced camouflage ability protects it from most hungry predators, in the wild, nothing is set in stone, and occasionally a bird or perhaps a spider can decipher the mantis's hiding place. Here, this skillful insect won't just sit idly by, waiting to be devoured. In addition to its ability to become nearly invisible in the dense jungle, like a true survivor, the praying mantis has a few tricks to escape a sudden death. Upon being discovered, one of its first master moves will be to stage elaborate threat displays, making its stalker understand that messing with this insect is not a good idea at all. Among these displays of strength and ferocity, the most common is the opening of its wings to appear larger than ever to carnivores intent on hunting it. Some specimens even have striking blue or red wings, which dazzle predators. Likewise, sounds and vibrations are a clear signal of intimidation, intended to warn any predator that dares to approach. If the option of scaring its opponent doesn't work, with the vastness of the jungle at its disposal, the mantis won't think twice and will try to escape quickly by making powerful leaps or even flying short distances. When a quick escape is not an option, and with no other alternative, the mantis will become aggressive and fight fiercely in a fight for its life. Its main weapons are its front legs, covered in small spines, which can dig into the enemy's body and deter them from further harassment. If the predator is a small bird or perhaps a lizard, the mantis will, without any hesitation, aim directly for its eyes, with the brutal intention of blinding its enemy. As if its spiny legs aren't enough, it can always use its powerful bite as a secondary weapon in close combat, which can cause significant injuries. Despite its ingenuity and ferocity, the praying mantis doesn't always manage to escape its enemy's bites. Sometimes the mantis ends up capturing its leg, ready to devour the insect, scooping up a protein-rich snack. However, even with the mantis tied up, the predator can't declare itself the winner. As a last resort, the insect may voluntarily detach its limb to escape. In the case of immature specimens, the lost limb will grow back when it molts. A clear example of the praying mantis's survival skills is that, when attacked by predators such as wasps, bats, lizards, or spiders, this insect can transform, in just seconds, from what appears to be a helpless prey into a voracious predator. With an insatiable appetite, the mantis uses all those same stealth and camouflage skills to, in a fleeting twist of the food chain, end up devouring a few grams of fresh meat. But masters of camouflage don't just live in the middle of the dense jungle. Far from the challenging home of the praying mantis, submerging us in the deep, vibrant waters of the Pacific, a cephalopod also sees camouflage as its best tool to avoid being devoured by the endless carnivores that fill these waters. The octopus may be recognizable by its 8 long arms, its 3 hearts, or even its blue blood. However, what keeps it safe from the fiercest marine predators is none other than its advanced camouflage ability. On the seabed, what appears to be a simple rock, or perhaps a piece of coral, is actually an intelligent cephalopod, peacefully sheltering from underwater dangers. With sharks, sperm whales, tuna, swordfish, seals, and sea otters lurking, the octopus's best defense is to simply remain motionless for hours, blending in with the lush vegetation. But the octopus doesn't just change color to virtually disappear into the landscape. It's even capable of modifying the texture of its skin to further enhance its already advanced camouflage. Using chromatophores and iridophores, it reflects the light of its surroundings, allowing it to practically disappear from the sight of its predators in just seconds. To adapt their skin texture to corals, rocks, or algae, octopuses employ their multiple papillae, which add an extra layer of security to their efficient camouflage. Despite their impressive appearance, this skillful cephalopod isn't just capable of disappearing into its surroundings by blending into the vegetation. Occasionally, in a display of ingenuity, Octopuses mimic animals like lionfish or sea snakes, species feared by many of their predators, thus deceiving them and forcing them to flee quickly. Unlike the African buffalo, which relies on colossal brute force for its survival, the octopus's brain is its most important organ for carving out a niche in the wild marine ecosystem. In addition to its central brain, the cephalopod has a large number of neurons distributed throughout its 8 tentacles, allowing each limb to act autonomously and receive tactile information from its surroundings in shorter periods of time. This allows them to react more quickly to a potential threat approaching their environment. Despite its enviable camouflage skills, this inhabitant of the deep can't always go completely unnoticed by its predators. Occasionally, sharks and large fish are more cunning and manage to surprise the octopus by uncovering its deception. Here, the octopus has 2 options. Allow itself to be wrapped in the warm blanket of death represented in the enormous jaws of a predator, or, like the survivor it is, use all the skills Mother Nature has given it to avoid being devoured. Even when the octopus is caught red-handed camouflaged on the ocean floor, it still has a few tricks to disappear, even with predators just meters away from its tentacles. Millions of years of evolution have equipped this cephalopod with an ink-filled sac made of melanin, precisely for use in these instances when its camouflage has failed. With predators about to launch their attack, the octopus, without a second thought, shoots out a thick, dark spurt, which works perfectly as a smokescreen for its escape. In addition to clouding the water, the ink contains a substance called tyrosinase, which is capable of confusing the sense of smell and sight of predators like large sharks. Thus, as the carnivore watches its world cloud over, the cunning octopus disappears into the darkness. By expelling pressurized water through its siphon, it can reach speeds of up to 40 kilometers per hour, which, in just seconds, can take it far away from any threat. Of course, given that its camouflage has only recently been discovered, the cephalopod doesn't usually choose to immediately blend into its surroundings, but prefers to seek refuge among the crevices of the seabed. Here, the great flexibility of its body is an unparalleled advantage. Thanks to its lack of solid structures, it can slip into places completely inaccessible to its stalkers and remain there until the danger passes. Although most of the time the octopus's thick ink does its job, blinding predators and giving them enough time to escape. This is the wild Pacific Ocean, and nothing is set in stone. On many occasions, the ferocious carnivores manage to bypass this smokescreen and charge head-on at the cephalopods, starting a fierce battle where the octopuses won't stand by with their tentacles crossed and watch themselves being devoured. Even in these fierce hand-to-hand combats, the octopus is capable of showing its ingenuity. When given the opportunity, this skilled survivor uses shells, coconuts, or any remaining vegetation as a shield to defend itself from attacks. Likewise, if there are rocks nearby, they will not hesitate to throw them forcefully at the predator. Of course, with 8 long tentacles, its main weapons will be its strong, lanky arms, which will firmly attach themselves to its enemy's body, trying to immobilize it. With the help of its suction cups, the octopus exerts a powerful suction force capable of subduing even larger animals for a long time. Its strong tentacles can also be used to deliver powerful pushes that push the predator away. Since desperate situations call for desperate measures, when the cephalopod finds itself at a clear disadvantage, as a last resort, it deliberately sheds one of its limbs. Thanks to its sophisticated nervous system, the severed arm will continue to move for a few minutes, distracting the predator. Although it may seem like an irreparable sacrifice, the truth is that, over time, the octopus will regenerate its tentacle and will be able to continue cruising the waters, surviving the most deadly dangers of the deep. While this flexible cephalopod deforms its body to seek refuge in narrow crevices and small nooks of the ocean floor, not far away, the pufferfish prefers to turn into a sphere to avoid being devoured by the kings of the underwater food chain. Encompassing several species, Pufferfish are characterized by their unique ability to fill themselves with water or air, inflating their bodies to a massive balloon-like size, making them nearly impossible to swallow. With sharks, dolphins, seals, and other large fish keen to make pufferfish part of their diet, this skilled swimmer, over millions of years of evolution, has developed this foolproof strategy to remain virtually untouchable in the perilous waters of the Atlantic. Of course, the pufferfish doesn't always remain in this unique shape. While feasting on algae, snails, worms, or mussels, this intelligent survivor lies peacefully, devouring all of Mother Nature's gifts. With no enemies in sight, it has no reason to show off its survival techniques, so it remains stylized. The magic happens when a potential threat is spotted in the distance, usually in the form of a hungry shark, or perhaps a vicious dolphin intent on satisfying its hunger. Spotting such a threat in the distance using its keen sense of sight, the fish won't try to play the hero, and will often prefer to take cover, swimming at full speed away from the predators. Sometimes in the wild, the best way to deal with trouble is to run away from it. However, since no matter how fast it is, it can never outrun its main enemies. When sharks, seals, or dolphins get dangerously close to its body, the pufferfish unleashes its secret weapon. It rapidly fills with water or air, doubling its size in just seconds. Taking on a rounded shape, the sea porcupine becomes a sphere that is very difficult for most ocean predators to devour. Although in this defensive form it is almost immune to most of the bites that rule the food chain, nothing good lasts forever, as the fish can only survive inflated for about 10 to 15 minutes. During this period, the many spines around its body add an additional layer of protection, deterring any threat from even approaching the entrenched fish. However, as time passes, the sea porcupine must find an escape route, as sharks and other predators know well that it can't maintain its defensive posture forever. Perhaps one of the disadvantages of its inflated size is the considerable reduction in its mobility, which makes it clumsy and even reduces its swimming speed by half. After several minutes of inflating itself, and with muscle fatigue becoming increasingly unbearable, the fish inevitably expels all the water inside and returns to its normal morphology. Here, the carnivores who have been patiently waiting for this moment may see their perfect opportunity to devour a fresh pufferfish, exhausted after having used up all its energy. However, this isn't a highly recommended idea, as most predators who have eaten pufferfish can attest. With a body riddled with a dangerous substance called tetrodotoxin, the moment a predator takes its first bite of this now not so appetizing fish, the toxic effects can be immediate, even leading to the eventual demise of these unfortunate carnivores who have sinned by meddling with what seemed like fragile prey. Typically, predators that survive exposure to the pufferfish toxin opt for a new diet, where these toxic swimmers will be conspicuous by their absence. The effects can be so devastating that, on occasion, some pufferfish, aware that a predator has already been under the influence of the substance, will only partially inflate themselves as a deterrent, knowing full well that tasting their toxic flesh is not an experience predators will enjoy repeating. Although a wide variety of species are susceptible to this highly dangerous poison, just as pufferfish have adapted to their wild environment, some carnivores have adapted and developed immunity to the toxin. This is the case with various species of sea snakes, which can enjoy devouring pufferfish without even flinching. A special case is that of dolphins, which occasionally hunt pufferfish with the specific purpose of being under the sedative effects of the toxin. Despite these exceptions, after just one bite of a pufferfish, the vast majority of marine predators will turn away at the sight of this toxic wild survivor swimming in the deep waters. That aside, sometimes a pufferfish's greatest enemy doesn't come in the form of a voracious dolphin, a hungry sea snake, or even a gigantic shark. Some juvenile fish, as a survival strategy, engage in cannibalism, a tactic that seeks to prematurely elevate their tetrodotoxin levels. This early exposure to the substance, of course, makes them immune to their own poison. But the pufferfish isn't the only wild survivor who chooses to curl up into a ball to avoid being devoured. Back on land, in an area near the ends of the earth, in eastern Patagonia, the tiny armadillo stands like a small battleship, ready to withstand even the most powerful blows. This thick shell protects the armadillo from bites, scratches, or virtually any attack devised by the predators of this ruthless ecosystem. In a Patagonia dominated by carnivores such as pumas, foxes, and eagles, this compact mammal relies entirely on its tough shell for its survival. Made up of bony plates covered by epidermal scales and flexible bands of skin, Mother Nature has provided this armored mammal with a nearly impenetrable shield. No matter what predator it encounters on its daily walks looking for ants and termites to devour, at the slightest sign of danger, the armadillo sees the ideal refuge, rolling up on itself, forming a nearly perfect sphere that protects every part of the mammal. The spherical shape of its defensive stance makes it even more difficult for predators to land a lethal blow against the armored armadillo, which must rely solely on its armor and wait patiently for the carnivore to relent in its cruel actions. Birds of prey, foxes, ocelots, and even large snakes often find themselves powerless against the solid armor of this tiny survivor. After managing to withstand several attacks from its stalkers, the small armadillo will not hesitate to make a hasty retreat straight to safety when it sees the slightest opportunity. Although its heavy armor may make it look slow and even somewhat clumsy, the truth is that this small tank can reach speeds of up to 48 kilometers per hour, disappearing into dense vegetation without leaving the slightest trace of its escape. When a predator is intent on catching the agile armadillo and is chasing it through the vegetation, the cingulate armadillo, in a demonstration of its agility, is capable of displaying erratic behavior, running in zigzags and abruptly changing direction, with the aim of evading its pursuers. These quick escapes usually end in their cozy burrows. Given their prodigious diggers, coupled with their impenetrable armor, they also use convenient underground shelters to stay out of reach of predators. Once an armadillo has entered its burrow, it's practically an impossible mission to get it out, as it will entrench itself inside its home with its strong claws. Of course, despite relying entirely on its thick shell for protection, the armadillo will always prefer to evade dangerous predators rather than endure prolonged attacks against its armor. This is where its highly tuned sense of smell plays a key role. Given its rather poor vision, the armadillo relies on its keen nose to detect any potential threat. When it smells that unmistakable scent of a big cat, it's best not to act brave and avoid unnecessary confrontations. Since encounters with vicious predators are quite frequent during the day, the armadillo prefers to emerge under the cover of night, when it becomes almost invisible to the carnivores of Patagonia. Although its appearance is miles away from the camouflage efficiency of the chameleon, the brown coloring of its armor conceals it quite well in dense undergrowth, often managing to go unnoticed, even when pumas or foxes are just meters away from the small mammal. Despite being endowed with unparalleled defensive abilities, the armadillo rarely sees attack as its best defense. When cornered for prolonged periods, the tiny mammal, after enduring countless blows time and again, demonstrates that all patience must come to an end. In an unexpected move, it disarms its armored sphere and leaps swiftly upward. While against formidable opponents like pumas, these surprise attacks have zero chance of causing damage, the objective is not precisely to attack, but rather to catch the adversary off guard and, at the slightest opportunity, initiate a life-or-death race. When the predator faces a slightly more accessible enemy, the armadillo, emboldened by each attack, can demonstrate that its sharp claws are not just for digging, and deliver swift and accurate swipes at its adversary. After such a display of ferocity, many bloodthirsty carnivores learn that it's best to seek other prey and never again cross paths with a veteran of 1,000 battles like the armadillo. While the well-protected armadillo bravely withstands every onslaught from countless predators in its perilous ecosystem, thousands of miles north in the icy Alaskan tundra, the solitary Arctic hare manages to battle sub-zero temperatures while simultaneously coping with a frozen world filled with hungry carnivores, where prey is scarce. With snow-white fur, this ingenious mammal adapts perfectly to the pale ecosystem it now inhabits. Of course, a few months ago, this colorless coat was tinged with a vivid brown that made it almost disappear among the autumn vegetation. But those days are long gone. Hidden in a small hole in the semi-frozen ground, the little hare protects itself from the frigid temperatures, while remaining safe from any potential predators seeking what appears to be a fairly easy prey. However, this tiny Alaskan can't stay in its shelter all day, and sooner or later it must emerge for food. Here, Arctic foxes, wolves, lynxes, stoats, and even gerfalcons see the opportunity they've been waiting for to enjoy a warm meal that will help them survive the cruel winter. However, the hare isn't willing to become part of any predator's diet, and if anyone wants a piece of its juicy meat, they'll have to go for it. The first challenge for predators hunting an Arctic hare is getting close without being detected. The large ears of this lagomorph mammal aren't especially decorative, but rather part of an advanced auditory sense capable of detecting even the slightest noise from tens of meters away in the icy ecosystem. Just one false step, and that entire hunting strategy can come crashing down with a fleeing hare. If, against all odds, a predator manages to outwit its advanced senses of sight and hearing, there's still a big problem to face in the form of its voluptuous legs. Its disproportionately muscular legs allow it to run at top speed, even through slippery snow. Reaching speeds of up to 72 kilometers per hour, virtually no predator can beat this white sprinter in a race for survival. Likewise, its impressive agility allows it to overcome any obstacle that crosses its path in its rapid runs, as well as leap up to 3 meters in a single bound. Upon encountering a predator, the Arctic hare's first instinct is to rely entirely on its white camouflage. By remaining motionless, the hare hopes to go unnoticed, deceiving the hungry carnivore. As unlikely as it may seem, this technique can be very successful, allowing it to avoid encounters with predators that could mean serious trouble for its life. If camouflage doesn't work, whenever the opportunity arises, the hare will have no qualms about using its powerful paws for what they were designed for, and running off to any carnivore-free spot. Of course, desperate Alaskan predators don't always fall for the bold hare's tricks, and occasionally manage to corner the small mammal. But even in this unenviable situation, the Arctic hare still has a few tricks to avoid being devoured. When faced with smaller adversaries, such as mustelids, in a unique and completely surprising move, it enters combat mode and delivers powerful blows with its front paws directly to the predator's body. The element of surprise in these attacks usually allows it to escape to safety, often some high terrain where the hare, thanks to its physical prowess, can move without any problem. After escaping the clutches of death, it continues its icy routine, surviving the sub-zero Alaskan climate. Although each of these wild survivors is fighting their own battle against relentless predators, in one of the most amazing spectacles in the animal kingdom, there is one fight they are unfortunately losing: the battle against the effects of climate change. Each of the delicate ecosystems these wild species inhabit has been severely impacted in recent years by the repercussions of human activities, significantly affecting their chances of survival. In the African savanna, zebras and gazelles must contend with longer and longer dry seasons each year, limiting the green pastures crucial to their survival and leaving them at the mercy of cruel predators. With the warming of tropical rainforests and increasingly frequent scorching forest fires, species like the chameleon and the praying mantis are seeing their habitats scorched by flames, leading to their imminent end, and not at the hands of their natural predators. For marine species like the pufferfish and the octopus, the story is not much different, as the damaging effects of climate change have raised sea temperatures, altering their ecosystems. For its part, the white Arctic hare sees the cold winter come to an early end each year, and its pale fur, which should be a defense mechanism, places it in the crosshairs of countless predators. Although the challenges are numerous, the good news is that we still have time to make effective changes aimed at conserving these wild species. With joint efforts, it is possible to preserve them in a purer and more natural state, as is their battle for survival and the fragile balance between predators and prey. Did you like this video? Then leave us a like, so we can continue bringing you the best stories about animal life. Don't forget to leave a comment in the box below to tell us which species impressed you the most. If you're interested, you can also click the notification bell to stay up to date with our new releases. If you want to help us continue growing, I invite you to subscribe and share this video with all your friends, so they can learn about the wildlife stories of the animal world survivors. Without further ado, see you next time with more stories of survival, struggle, and above all, wild instinct.